Hey, beauties. Good evening to you. Beautiful people. I don't know if you guys were watching the news. I was. And yesterday I did a video on what I'm about to talk about. I didn't know the official organization, PISA, which stands for Program for International Students Assessment. They wanted to conduct a study, I think it was 2021, but we were still sort of not necessarily fresh, but we were now cemented in the whole COVID pandemic, so it was not able to have been done in 2021. So I think it was done in 2022, the PISA report. And out of that report, it seemed as if 80 countries, was it? 80 or 81 countries were assessed, in particular 15-year-olds. And Jamaica was placed 67th place. I would love to see the other countries that are actually lower, as in, like 68, 69, 70, all the way up to 80, 81, to see where they're from, what type of countries they are. Because sometimes they have a lot of underemployment due to high poverty. And, like you'd look at certain Somalian countries and so on. So I would not be surprised if they fall in that category. But as an English-speaking country in the Caribbean, we are... Lord have his mercy. I'm laughing, people, but it's not a good laugh, as Jamaicans would say. 67th place. Or the reading of the 15-year-olds are not good. They're really not good. The reading, the mathematics. Mathematics have been a thorn in the side of Jamaican students for decades. I too struggled with that particular subject because we have not generally had across the board sufficient solid math teachers in our country. I don't know why. They were in pockets. You would catch them maybe at extra lessons, depending on, and you would have to go to a different school sometimes. That's one of the unfortunate things. Sometimes they had immigrants, I guess, from other countries who would come, and they would, do a sort of a work program with certain schools who were able to pay them. And, I suppose the creme de la creme schools were able to afford the very good math teachers and so on. One or two ordinary, and the sciences. So it is math, reading, sciences, fundamental areas. And I'm beginning to wonder, if phonics, is being really taught. I'm not hitting any teacher, to be honest with you. Right. So phonics is basically, the art of teaching a child or children how to read and write using the different methodologies, the different methodologies that they would implement and apply, whether it's building blocks, knowing how to sound words, how to pronounce words, how to enunciate, how to know what, when you see B, you're going to say B, the subject, the predicate, how to break up words in syllables. So that's the basic phonics. So that by the time the early childhood stage has passed, when they hit high school, it's just an advanced level now they're stepping into, so that when they are in high school, from the very fact that they're even in first form, from the get-go, they should not be reading at any 4-year-old level. They should not be reading at a 4-year-old level. They should be advanced. So you give them any arbitrary book, anything ad hoc, and they're able to read it succinctly, sweetly, clearly, and so on. So, and the reason why I mentioned the whole thing about if the basic phonics has been taught or is being taught in schools is that I remember my mother saying to me years ago, many, many years ago, a teacher, I don't know what conversation ensued. And the teacher said, well, if you pick them, I'll learn them. If they don't, I'll learn them lucky. That was a conversation. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to stray too much in terms of the teachers because not all people are, are like that. But I've heard solid teachers, have told me stories about some who are in the education system. But one of the most surprising things that I will find, and I found when I remember when I was doing my first degree, the concern for a number of lecturers in, was how is it that you're able to pass primary level, prep primary, secondary level, you go to the tertiary level and your reading ability is little to none, almost. I shouldn't say little to none, very, very minuscule. When you read it, you're wondering they could not be at a tertiary level, and their English is off, totally off. There's a difference between speaking or using our Jamaican vernacular, whether you want to say patois or Creole, versus improper grammar, something that is grammatically incorrect, because we associate speaking patois with grammatical errors. Even in patois, you have a thing called subject and predicate. You can find a sentence out of it. So I can say to you, me a go down the road, right? You can find a subject and a predicate. So I think the predicate, the predicate falls where you have that conjunction, somewhere off there. So you can find that in that. So it is not about, whether you want to speak or dialect. It is about the children's IQ, their intelligence quotients. We're putting aside emotional intelligence right now. Emotional intelligence, I would link emotional intelligence. Maybe I pull it with comprehension skills or critical thinking skills. Are the children comprehending when you say 1 + 1 = 2? Are they able to use the basic phonics? When they say B, they don't say orange. When they say bread, they start to say, oh, I've seen that before. I've seen it before in cases like that. When a child, a young person saw, like they would see the word bread, they start to say orange. They didn't understand about the sounding, of words, teaching you, which is a part of the phonics. So something is off. If we're placed 67th place of 80 or 81 schools, I was listening to what the news said, as it relates to that cohort. Remember, I think it was last year or so, or the year before, I was looking where we're ranked overall as it relates to literacy. We're 138th place. And they did this study with the 15-year-olds, and we are at 67th place. It's students they're not doing well at math. That has been a sore thumb for ever since. And then worse yet, a lot of migration is happening, in terms of great teachers. Reading is poor, and the sciences. And I'm wondering what is happening in our land. Don't get me wrong, notwithstanding, I'm not going to put the blame on just the education system. I've often said, how a child is parented, the type of foods that they eat, the things that they're exposed to, where the discipline comes in. Do they sit and do they study? Do they, go home and look over what it is that they're given? Do they get sufficient sleep? What type of illness they may have? So it's a whole host of factors, but there are some that will carry more weight than the other in terms of the teaching abilities, or who the people that are left here. Not everybody in the school mean that they mean well. Some people it's just a means to an end in the teaching profession, just like with other professions. I'm sick and tired of seeing that we are way down in Jamaica as it relates to literacy, as it relates to learning. And that is why when the people from other countries speak about us, they speak about us like we're one of those things with a big bone and we're like a bonehead. Like the fool, backward, dark, dumb, big lip something. Whatever you want to call that thing. That monkey looking thing. I remember that cartoon that you used to see with the big red lips. Dunce, backward illiterate. Comprehension skills are not there. So when the teacher says 1 + 1 = 2, they're hearing 1 + 1 = 22 or 11 or 12. When they say, you know how to sound the words. When you see bread, they're saying was. They're saying orange, yellow. I don't know how we are not livid by this, not concerned about our young, because listen, the older folks, you're going to die one day. Although nowadays appear young people are dead left, the old one them. It's not good for a country. So stay there, not be concerned. Stay there, not be concerned about what is happening with our adolescents and even the younger ones. What a web we weave, guys. Follow me on TikTok. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please share this message.